Fantastic. Okay, so we don't have a ton left. We're just sort of going to wrap up and bring a bunch of things together at this point. But if you remember, basically what we've done until this point is we've explored the idea of more, meaning having diverse programming. We've explored the idea of Jewish, meaning having programs that feel Jewish. This is BBYO for a reason. And we've explored the idea of meaningful, meaning how are we really getting the teens to say this program should be the best program possible? And CLTC, as I said before, is the best place for that to happen. What we want is to spend the next 2 weeks instilling in these teens the idea of excellence in their programming. And so that's why we think about goals, and we think about a really effective brainstorming session, and we think about evaluation, so that every single step that we take is moving towards the idea of excellent programming. So what I want us to do just for the next couple minutes is think about the idea of what happens when we have to work backwards. Because sometimes we do. Let's face it, our teens will come running into our offices or at CLTC, they'll come running into the room and they'll say, oh my God, I have the best activity for us to do. And so the whole premise of everything we talked about before is when we have the chance to promote to them, start with your goals, start with your ideas. But sometimes if we want to be realistic, to Sherry's point, we don't want to be saying no to things. We want to be showing them how they can take the ideas they already have and make sure that they're meaningful. So sometimes we don't get them right from the start, and we can't necessarily say, let's start with the goals. They already have an activity that they want to do. It doesn't mean we throw everything out the window, though. It means we go from where they are, and then we make sure that it's a meaningful program. So this is an activity that, I know the curtains are kind of in the way, I'll move them as we need to. But this is an activity that I've actually done with teens as they were planning a regional convention back about 6 or 7 months ago. So just to preface, this example might speak a little more to a convention where there are a number of programs happening throughout the course of the weekend, but that doesn't mean that it can't be tailored to think about just one specific program. So keep that in mind. So let's say you'll notice that there are 3 pieces of paper here: goals, big ideas, and activities. I've filled them in with some examples. Imagine that they're blank though. Let's say that teens come running in saying, we have the best activity for our chapter mock program. Here's what we want to do. And what they're listing are exactly that. They're listing activities. So we haven't had the opportunity to say, we don't want to say no, and we haven't said, hold on. Okay, great. You've got activities in mind. Let's write them down. And so on the first piece of paper that we see, we label it activities, and we write down, they want to play a basketball game, or they want to have a debate competition, or they want to have a scavenger hunt, or they want to have a panel of speakers, of people who have been really successful. Maybe they're BBYO alum. Who knows? So whatever it is that the activity that's getting them excited, great. Say yes to it, take it down, put it on the board for activities. Then have them step away from that. And again, we're not saying no to any of these activities, but go back to them and say, okay, great, these are the activities you have in mind. Let's think about what you want to do with that. Why are these the activities you have in mind? What's getting you excited about it? And so again, because they're not necessarily thinking in terms of outcomes and goals, that's okay. That's where the big ideas sheet comes in. To be totally honest, you can have the big ideas sheet in the middle, or you can remove it and just have the goals and activities right next to each other. It's totally up to you, depending on where your teens are in terms of their comfort of talking about goals and outcomes in that language. The big ideas become sort of a middle step. So when you say to them, you really want to do this debate competition, that's an activity, fantastic. What is it that you're trying to get your peers to get out of it? And they might come back to you saying, we really want them to work on their public speaking. Okay, well, again, public speaking is not a goal, but it's a big idea that they're trying to accomplish. And so that's why I have the middle sheet with big ideas, put it down in the middle. So whatever it is that's on their mind, put that down on the middle one. And then again, come back to them, and with that language, whatever's appropriate for the teams that you're working with, ask them the question, what is it that you want your friends to be talking about, thinking about, doing or saying or whatever when the program ends? And that's when you can start to get to the specifics of some of the goals. And whatever they're coming up with, at the last step, put down on the goals sheet. So again, this might seem backwards from everything that we were talking about before, and ultimately, yes, it's really nice if you think about your roadmap to know where you want to end so that you can figure out where you want to start. Sometimes there are 3 steps ahead of you. Okay, let's work. So this is the process. You write down all of these 3, and then I purposefully put them right next to each other. And the reason that I did this is because the next thing that you say to a teen, well, it's great that you have all of these activities, and now we've generated a conversation and we know what you're trying to achieve by way of your program as a whole. Let's make sure that everything that's on here should be on here. And this is where, Sherry and I talked a little bit about getting rid of the fluff. This is how you make sure that you have a program that is meaningful and has the fun and the education and the value and all of those things, and isn't necessarily wasting time. At the end of the day, we all know that programs are short in time, and there's a lot that the teens want to accomplish. So we want to make sure it's time well spent. So that's where this comes in. When I put these 3 up on the wall, I give the teens a marker, and I say to them, now what I want you to do is draw a line directly from a goal to an activity to show the connection. What you want to accomplish is develop the ability to lead from anywhere in the room. They might have worked on what it means to lead from up here, but what does it mean to lead from where Tracy's sitting, right? That's a new skill, and that's something that they want to develop. Okay, that's one of their goals. Draw a line, again, either with this piece of paper existing or without it, to the activity that relates to it. And the purpose of this is, if they do all of these lines and they find that scavenger hunt doesn't connect to any goal, what does that say to them? Scavenger hunt maybe shouldn't happen here. Again, it's not to say it shouldn't happen at all. It just means, based on all of these things they're trying to accomplish, this might not be the best time for it. Still a great activity, let's find somewhere else to do it. Okay? What this does is, the idea of goals and outcomes sometimes doesn't feel like something that they can grasp. For teens, they want to, what's the purpose? How does this relate to the activity that I want to do? And what I found is having them draw the lines makes it real, it makes it tangible. So, all right, if that's what we're looking at. So the speaker panel seems to relate to public speaking possibly. Okay, so I'm going to draw a line there. Those things, that makes sense. And public speaking, that could be this goal down here. Okay, so now they can see that develop the ability to lead from anywhere in the room. And speaker panel. Speaker panel has a really useful place in the program or in the convention. Basketball game and group bonding, let's just say. Okay? If they say this is a way that we can achieve our group bonding, because what we really wanted is to develop into a cohesive group, fantastic. So we go from here up to basketball game. So basketball game has a really useful place in the convention or in the program. And you can continue going all the way through. And again, the benefit of this is at the end of the day, they're going to see that, let's say, scavenger hunt is sitting there floating on its own, and usually they'll come to you and say, you know what, we only have an hour to do all of this, we'll do scavenger hunt somewhere else. The other thing that might happen is you could end up with a goal that doesn't connect to anything. And that's totally fine too. And so what that says to them is, maybe we need to save this goal for another program so that we can really devote our time to it and find an activity that's really going to help us achieve it, because it doesn't really fit in here. Again, perfectly fine. What it's allowing them to do is understand how all of these components of a really high quality program fit together, and they start to really see the connection between what am I trying to achieve and what am I putting into it, and how do those things connect to each other. Okay? Questions about this?
Tracy? There can be more than one goal per activity. Correct?
Yes, 100%. And so you can see, I actually have, I have a file that I can send all of you, a PDF that shows like a PowerPoint of all of these. And there are things that have multiple slides and multiple lines coming in and out. At the end of the day, you could have 3 different activities with one goal. And as long as you have the time for it, all it's doing is reinforcing that goal in 3 new ways, which is great. Other questions? Yeah?
We can do this again with take the big ideas sheet out and just go straight goals to activities too, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. And again, because the point of the big ideas is, again, just that sometimes the teens will come to you and they'll have words and it's not 100% a goal language. You can skip this and just help them turn it into goal language right away, and then you just have the 2 sheets next to each other. Any other questions? No? Okay, so then just the last thing to wrap up is the worksheet, the chart that you guys were looking at before. So this is, as I said, this is one template, and as you'll see if you go through the Guide to Program Excellence, there's a different kind of template. The point of this is that I want you to see that there are two different ways to do this, but the reason that I've given you the one that I've included, which is titled Enhancing the BBYO Experience, or Programmatic Experience, thank you. The reason that that one is included is for what we were talking about before, the fact that the educational framework becomes a part of your goals. So what I've done with that one is, in the goals section, which is the first column that you're looking at, I've listed the educational framework and its outcomes and sub-outcomes. And then next to it, I've listed the 5 and 6 folds. So there's two things that I would say. First off, should these be the only goals that exist when you plan a program? No. Those are only a few possible goals. What you always want is to have the teams come up with their own goals. That's how they own the program. That's how they really get behind it. This isn't about us. This is about what do they want to do. So this is a roadmap to say, here are some that you can include, and what are the others you want to add to it. Now, as I said before, all of the outcomes from the educational framework are listed here. Do we want to have all of them in every program? No. So what I suggest when I work with teams is to say either circle or highlight the ones that you think relate to what you're trying to achieve. So you might have 2, okay? The rest you're just sort of leaving out. Or if you're actually working on this on a computer, just delete the other ones, and then you have room to add every other goal that they want to come up with. And then by way of the 5 and 6 folds, what's nice about it is that from there, they can then go and say which fold relates. What is it that they're trying to do? If they've chosen something about something from Connect, and it's about building community, it might be that they're trying to do a sisterhood program. And so that's going to be the fold that they choose. And again, same thing, they just circle or highlight the fold 1 or 2 or even 3 of them that relate, and then they continue on. So the point to that chart is really just that it's a way for them to organize the information, which again, going back to you being in the conversation with them, this is helpful for you to be able to say, where is it that you're trying to go, and how can I give you feedback on it? So yeah, that's it. That's the end of what I had to share. Questions?